All across the fantasy universe, welcome in to Ask Guru Anything. What's going on, everybody? It's a Tuesday night. We're recording live. I'm your boy, Brian Drake, hanging out with the guru, the publisher of fantasypoints.com, Mr. John Hansen. John, we are in the thralls of NFL preseason. We're on the doorstep of fantasy drafts. I just came back from the Fantasy Football Expo where I competed against 13 other experts. It's been a long week, man. I got to relax. Got to crack one here with you and all our friends in the live chat here, youtube.com/fantasy points. How are you, brother?
I'm doing all right. As I told you before we went on there, I'm pretty healthy guy. Like I never get sick. I fight off things. I think I'm fighting off a sinus infection deal. Like,
oh boy.
So I'm trying to kill it with beer right now. And so far it's working.
I couldn't let you sit here and drink alone. So I went up and grabbed one of the beers that somebody grabbed me from the Fantasy Football Expo. People gave me a ton. This is, what is this? Hop or Hero IPA from, what the hell's it from? Revolution Brewing. So shout out to everybody who gave me free beer out there. We'll enjoy this tonight on the show, but this
what
show's
is better than free beer?
Nothing. Not at all. No. So this show's all about you guys.
I've got beer stories for you, by the way. Like we can go on for, a little more off-season fodder, but here's a quick one for you.
Sure.
My senior year in high school, I'm 17, just turned 17. My birthday is July 31st. So
he's only 17.
5 weeks after I turned 17, I get this connection, and I had it for the entirety of the year. Couldn't get served at a liquor store, didn't have a fake ID, but I could go to this beer distributor, liquor beverage distributor, and get a half barrel keg whenever I wanted. So I probably bought 30, 40 half barrel kegs my senior year in high school.
Oh my gosh. That's what you need is the hookup. And then it's like, yo, party at John's house. Come on over. Oh, that'll get you.
These are mostly woods and pit parties in the 80s. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Now we're just two old guys who drink in our basement.
I was all in the mix with that. I was all in the mix with those, by the way, my high school.
The reason we were late coming on air here, folks, is we typically like to go off at 8 o'clock Eastern time. Is John and I were talking about 80s hair bands, specifically Scorpions, because I'm a big Poison guy. And John starts going into talking about Scorpions. And also we go down a wormhole after the show. I'll be on YouTube just searching it out. But what are some of your favorite, before we get into the fantasy questions here, just some of your favorite old school 80s bands when you were growing up?
Well, I'm a big music guy, so I liked a lot of genre. I was totally all in on all the new wave stuff and all that. Not really like Michael Jackson or anything like that. It was all right, but more so hard rock, heavy metal, like going from like, Rush, AC/DC, Ozzy, all three of those were huge when I was like in 8th grade. And then going into high school, the start of MTV and, Def Leppard. I'm a big, we were just talking Scorpions. I was a huge, still am, Judas Priest fan. It's funny. I was telling you too, I hooked up with my guy, Richard Christie from the Howard Stern Show. Shout out to Richard on the boardwalk yesterday in Ocean City. We were actually going to go to a concert in 2 weeks together in Philadelphia, but unfortunately it had to be canceled. Wasp. I was a big Wasp guy. I will say, and I actually had a conversation about this with the one and only, the late, great Ronnie James Dio, one of the nicest people I've ever spoken to.
Mm-hmm.
I did bail. No offense to your Poison. I am, considerably older than you. You were probably like 6 when Poison hit, or 7. I did bail on that genre of music for about 5 years when those hair bands came. Poison, Winger, Warrant. I used to call them the other one, Skid Mark. I despised all of those bands. And I didn't really listen to popular rock music for half a decade until Nirvana hit. Thank God.
Oh man. If you guys ever want to laugh and find a fun band with great musicianship, go on YouTube and look up Steel Panther. These guys are basically, it's like a mock hair band, and their songs are so vulgar and so ridiculous. Don't listen with kids around, but you'll enjoy yourself and have a good time.
Well, here's one real quick. Heavy Metal Parking Lot.
Oh my
Google
God.
that, YouTube that thing. It's a raw documentary made in the 80s at in a parking lot before a Judas Priest concert in Landover, Maryland on like June 15th, 1986. Unbelievable. It's like those were my people at that time. And I looked and I'm like, well, I saw Judas Priest the night before in Philly, about
Mm-hmm.
2 days before I graduated from high school. But that's a good one. Heavy Metal Parking Lot. If you want to see what it was like to party in the 80s, check out that video.
I saw Alice Cooper last week here in Syracuse. So some of those same
Wow.
people, if they're still hanging around, they're not partying as hard, but they're still there.
Yeah.
Let's get into some of the content here. Our buddy Carlos is asking us, Guru, what's the best strategy in a 10-team PPR with my first 3 picks in a snake draft? Now, John has been putting out content over at fantasypoints.com, articles and podcasts and also videos on our YouTube page for every draft position. So outside of just his draft plan, which you can read every year, it's live at fantasypoints.com right now. Go check out some of these videos, whatever draft position you have. John will run you through the whole damn draft. You've been doing them all summer. I saw you put one up today from the 9 hole. I paid attention to that because I'm drafting 9th in my home league. So just, quick, cliff notes here for the folks about the work you've already done.
Well, I will say, and I've been, as you mentioned, like really in the weeds here and deep all up in there for the last 3 weeks as the markets have shifted here. So, I'm getting a lot of like, where do you want to draft? Early, mid, late, round 1. And that's actually fluid a little bit. It'll probably tighten up a little bit. I will say, I did it all again today. And the teams that I drafted at the first early round 1, they did score more. They did finish with more points. So, I mean, I think you want to, if that's probably still the default answer, but I like the teams I've gotten from like 7, 8, 9. The middle of round 1 is kind of weird, but in a 10 team or 2, like
everybody's
I don't
loaded.
think you want to be married to any one strategy. I think you are a little bit more in best player available mode because 10 teams, waiver wire is going to be pretty fruitful. So to me, a guy like Mark Andrews makes more sense then. You know what I mean? Like I'll take Andrews at 24, third round in a 10 teamer to make sure I'm really dominant at that position. I'll pay up for a quarterback. So I want to find some sort of balance there in a smaller league where I'm getting in the wide receiver business. I'm going to be competitive there. I'd like to get an advantage also with tight end and quarterback. So maybe we give a little less love to the running backs. Maybe quarterback is less of a priority than tight end. I probably would want to like prioritize tight end a little bit more, like get like a Mark Andrews, get one of the 2 elite guys. Maybe you can't control getting Kelsey, but you can probably control getting Andrews.
Sure.
So, I mean, I wouldn't be married to any one thing, be in the wide receiver business, make sure you're good there. Hopefully get some value at quarterback, maybe try to get Mandrews, to kind of dominate tight end, take advantage of the values of running back. It's not really dissimilar to the 12 team plan. Right. I don't know. Maybe I'm not that experienced to 10 teamers, but I don't know if you really want to lock yourself into one plan. I don't even know where he's drafting from either.
Yeah. I think people get locked into a certain plan. They go, I have to go into this draft. I've got to come out with this guy in this position. Yeah. I just drafted in a 14-team experts draft. I had the 14th pick. I walked out with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Tony Pollard as my first 2 picks.
Good, man.
Yeah.
I did that today in a 12-teamer.
Yeah. I was happy. Then, of course, later on in the draft, I got Mr. Breece Hall, who kicked me right in the balls with this Dalvin Cook news. So
it's a long season.
Yeah. I was talking to a guy I know in the building for the Jets, and he goes, there's really nothing wrong with Dalvin Cook. They're keeping him out because of this baby situation. He's got a kid coming. And he's like, I go, well, how would you want to draft these guys for fantasy? He goes, to be honest, I don't want either one of these guys. He's like, they're just going to split carries. And folks, if you want to hear some real good inside stuff, John had Adam Schefter on a pod. It's available with all our Fantasy Points podcasts and YouTube. They talk specifically about this situation. It was before the Cook signing, but Schefter does kind of lean into why Dalvin Cook might want to be there. So it's definitely a good listen. Here's a good question from our buddy Matt Fox on YouTube. Now we can kind of extrapolate this. He asks, in an auction super flex, how do you suggest spending money on QBs when it's 4-point touchdown versus 6-point? But I don't even know if that matters, but it is a good question of 4-point touchdown versus 6-point passing touchdown, because some leagues are like that. So how do you go about attacking that with the two different scorings?
Well, the basic thing is the 4-point guys get a little hosed, and the running quarterbacks stand out more when you're getting 2 more for the rushing touchdown. Conversely, if it's 6 points per touchdown, regardless of rushing or passing, that hurts the running quarterbacks, who are inherently more risky because of they run. So, but in a 4-point passing touchdown league, let's say it this way, your dude, if he doesn't run, he better go off. Like 2 years ago, Matt Stafford was a great example. Like we were like, he's getting 40, and he did, but he still wasn't that great with 40. So that's why I kind of want I want to cheat a little bit and get like a Herbert or a Burrow. Obviously Mahomes, but a little too pricey there. Deshaun Watson, guys who were 30 plus potential throwing, and let's say 5 or more potential rushing. I mean, Burrow did get 5 last year. Trev Lawrence got 5 last year. Herbert, I don't know about him, but Herbert then again could throw 39. So 4 points for passing. You need to, if you don't run for at least 200 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns, you're going to be Jared Goff. You better go off.
Right. Interesting question. You and Schefter touched on this a little bit. There's some value that might be had right now in Indianapolis with Jonathan Taylor. He seemed to not want anything to do with JT. Our buddy Tanner Russell asks, thoughts on Jonathan Taylor and his outlooks? Where would you draft him? His current underdog ADP is 23, 24. So end of the second round, he's RB8 off the board at that point. But yeesh, it looks like there might not be a resolution in sight between the Colts and JT.
I think the easiest and best answer, because anything else is pure speculation, is to not take them. Because, you've got me with my spidey sense going off from the beginning. You got Kaplan with me, and you basically have Schefter with me. I mean, between the 3 of us, we literally have 100 years experience in covering the NFL. And we're both like, it's not good. So, I mean, we could be off. It could be rectified. I doubt it. I haven't checked the last 4 hours, but, as Adam intimated, the problem is like the only recourse these guys really truly have if they want to go hardcore is, back hurt. Oh, my back is really weak. Oh, when did you suffer the injury? Oh, about a week back. Get it? Boom. But they can like really milk these injuries, and now it's just a disaster,
Right.
So like, I don't think we need to go there. I hate to say it. I hate to just write them off.
Avoid landmines.
Why do it?
Yeah. Just don't try to be a hero. Avoid some landmines. I know that kid Tanner Russell. He's won a league or 2 in his day. He doesn't need to win any more fantasy leagues. How about our buddy Jeff Lutz? This is a good question. Are any of these Chiefs receivers going to even be a wide receiver 2? Now, there's been some hype in camp over your boy Sky Moore, and he looks great out there. I thought I was going to get him in the Kings Classic. Justin Ross just limped off with an injury. We'll see what happens with him. MVS, Rashee Rice, Richie James. So there's a million guys. Every day it's a new camp highlight of one of them. I mean, really, is the answer kind of just Mahomes and then Kelsey, obviously, and then everybody else light a candle, say a prayer? I'm in on Sky Moore. I'm buying the hype with you this year, Guru. I'm riding and dying with you. These other guys, I don't know.
I think the answer is Sky Moore. And look, and again, I oversold him last year, but let's take a look at what I said. I said Juju was one and done because he's not any good. He's gone. I said Hardman stunk, and he's gone. I said MVS sucked, and he does, and he's gone. He's a one-trick pony. Kadarius Toney, I said on the radio, they had a 0.0% chance of playing 17 games. Then he got hurt the first time he moved.
I didn't even include Toney in my list of Chiefs receivers. That's how little I think of him right now.
I like Richard James, but come on now. He's a journeyman slot type.
Yeah.
I like Rashee Rice, but no rookie receiver really since Deshaun Jackson has dominated with Andy Reid. And even that year, Jackson only had 3 touchdowns. He just outran everybody. Justin Watson's just a guy. Like, the answer is Sky Moore, as I've been saying since last year and the entirety of the offseason. People don't realize that it's like the era of instant gratification. And I get it to an extent. I'm a big first impression guy in many cases, but not with receivers who come from small schools who go to very complex offenses. Like, people don't really wrap their heads around these days that, oh, that's right, the guy can actually get better, significantly better, especially when you're starting from a low starting point. So, I mean, I still think Sky Moore is the sleeper receiver of the year.
I love what you said to Schefter in the War Room League. Go draft Sky Moore and you'll win the damn War Room League. This is a great question out here. Maybe more of a statement from our boy Matt Donnelly from the Dynasty Vipers Network. I was drinking coffee and hot chocolate with Matt. He doesn't drink beer. Why is Dunkin Donuts some of the worst coffee out there? He's a big Tim Hortons guy up there in Canada. You a coffee guy, Guru?
Yeah, I mean, we have a coffee machine with its own water supply in our house, so we don't have to fill the pot. Okay, that's how much we drink. I'm typically a, Boulder, whatever the term is, like, Starbucks, whatever. I think the Dunkin' Donuts is just watered down, right? Compared to Starbucks. I'm a Cafe Verona guy, a dark roast guy. So the Dunkin' Donuts is very watered down. And by the way, proud of you for not drinking beer. Good for you.
Yeah.
Matt Donnelly is high on life.
Yes, he is. He's a fun dude. And the mustache is out of control. Check him out on Twitter, folks, if you haven't. He's been doing some fun stuff with us over at fantasypoints.com. Taylor Thornton asks, if Chase and JJ are off the board at pick 3, is your first choice Tyreek, or are you now turning your attention to a top running back?
That's a great question. I'm probably myself. Yeah, I'm going Tyreek. I've been passing on Eckler left and right, and it's nothing against him at all. I actually feel I am fine with him, but it's just roster construction. Like, I don't know. I've gone through it a million times, and it seems like every time I get a running back like mid first or even late first, I just don't like the team. I mean, that's it. I mean, I just like, and by the way, it's kind of funny that the first round running backs are the big names, but in part, they're the big names because they're older, and they're also big names because they're rookies and unproven. So ironically, the 2023 running backs, the riskiest ones, it's not even all about the cost. Even if you remove the cost, if you took the first 30 running backs off the board, I would argue a lot of the more risky ones are the first ones going off the board in round 1. Eckler, McCaffrey, and like Bijan.
Speaking of Austin Eckler, going to have a great conversation with our Trey Camberling and Joe Dolan on our YouTube channel coming up with Austin Eckler. So make sure you're subscribed to the Fantasy Points YouTube channel. Again, youtube.com/fantasy points. Hit that subscribe button. It's so easy. We got tons of content like this show right here, popping up every single week. It's really fun. Make sure you're checking that out.
Eckler once blew me off in an interview, by the way, and I got to tell you, I forgot about it. I think I subconsciously taxed him for it, so I apologize for that. That was about 4 years ago, though.
This is a phenomenal YouTube name, Unlimited Breadsticks, and his avatar is a cartoon of former WWE Hall of Famer Jim Ross. Am I crazy to take Anthony Richardson 2 overall in a rookie draft, assuming Bijan goes first? And by the way, the Colts just announced today that Anthony Richardson, to the surprise of absolutely no one, is going to be their starting quarterback this year.
I mean, you would not be crazy at all if you said it at 3 overall. Now, is this a super flex as well?
Didn't say.
Yeah. I mean, you would be crazy if it wasn't a super flex, I think, if you took him over Jahmyr Gibbs. But, it does fall off this rookie class. I mean, at least for the short term. I mean, you want to look at JSN and Quentin Johnston as great long-term buys. I'm not that into them, honestly. Haven't been all year. I'm a Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison guy. They were my top. I had them tied basically for my top wide receiver, and I feel great about that right now. But, by the way, Quentin Johnston 3 years from now could easily be better than both. I mean, the two guys I like are a little bit more instant gratification, whereas JSN and Quentin Johnston a little bit more developmental down the road prospect. But I still love Flowers and Addison. But I think you can make the argument in a non-superflex dynasty, Richardson at 3. You could. I mean, certainly, Brian, in terms of like immediate impact, since Richardson's going to start, obviously, and probably be a top 12 guy. So it'll probably be Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Anthony Richardson as the most impactful rookies this year.
Right. If Richardson takes off and becomes a top 7 quarterback even for the next, 5-6 years, you'll kick yourself if you're like, oh my God, I took Dalton Kincaid or somebody instead of him. So, you kind of got to shoot for the moon here. The upside with Richardson is really outstanding, whereas everybody else is just kind of, hey, they could be good, but I don't see transcendent talent necessarily with those guys. How about Corey Canterbury? Now, I love mixing in some of these questions, and thank you to everybody who's in the chat. We got a million of you in here, and half of you guys are in some of my home leagues, so I'm very curious and apprehensive to ask these questions to the guru. So Corey asks, hey, Guru, I'm in a 12-team dynasty league with a salary cap. I was offered Kyle Pitts, he's one of your boys, for $22 for Pat Freiermuth at $1 and a 2024 first-round pick. Do I take it? I'm thinking no. So the deal again in dynasty, Kyle Pitts for Pat Freiermuth and a first-round pick. Pat Freiermuth, $1, Kyle Pitts, 22. It's not really anything crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, you probably spent a first-round pick on Kyle Pitts. So really, you're just pushing that pick down the road and getting Pat Freiermuth.
Yeah, it's like, Corey, I don't like to just agree with the question answer as a cop-out, but I agree. I agree with you. I mean, I think you're just taking on some risk there. And as I've said about Kyle Pitts, yeah, I'm all in on Kyle Pitts. However, I am not all in on the notion that Arthur Smith is going to unlock Kyle Pitts. So to me, it's just more of a calculated buy move, like, oh, what's that? Kyle Pitts' price tag is cut in half from last year and probably a better quarterback situation. Okay, now I'm in, but it's not like I'm totally sold on Arthur Smith in terms of taking it, getting the most out of what the talent that Kyle Pitts has, which is a lot.
I talked about guys I know being in the chat and asking questions, and I'm very thankful for that. So many of these folks here are going to have drafts over the next 2-3 weeks, John, where they're in a bar, a basement, a backyard, a garage. If you were going to a home league draft this weekend with your buddies, how are you preparing? What are you bringing? And more importantly, what are you drinking?
Well, I'm drinking my normal lager beer, either Stella or Peroni. Amstel Light if I have to. Okay, that's about as I'm kidding. Heineken. I'm bringing a freaking old school 1987, printout of a cheat sheet with a pen. Yeah. And I'm gonna do a last minute news sweep because obviously I know everything up until whatever. Just to make sure there's nothing that I missed, and that's it. I think you're like that too, right? Old school. When you bring the top 200 sheet and you cross guys off, you then isolate good values. So there's something to be said for it.
I just did a draft, like I said, in Canton against some of the best and brightest guys in fantasy football, mind you. Bob Harris, Jeff Radcliffe, Jeff Manns, Brad Evans, Jim Coventry, Howard Bender, Dave Richard, all these great guys. Everyone's got their computer up. They got some goofy program telling them how to draft. Do I do that? Nay. I got the fantasy points printout right here. I'm showing you on the screen, and I'm just crossing dudes off like a freaking alpha, and I'm calling out the next pick. I don't need the computer and AI to tell me who to pick, and that's what you guys should do. Get over to fantasypoints.com. Sign up today. We got customizable cheat sheets. You want it for top 200. You want it for half PPR, full PPR, Superflex, whatever it is. We got it over there. Print it out. Dominate your draft. It's got Guru's tiers. It's got his Gurific players highlighted. So if you want to draft like John, trust me, the cheat sheets can help you out. Fantasypoints.com. I can't hammer it home enough how, what kind of site this is and why you need to be there. I had guys hit me up this week from my old fraternity. They're like, Drake, where do I get your rankings and all this? And I go, just go to fantasypoints.com. Print it out, set it and forget it. You'll be good to go. You'll thank me later. We got guys in the chat. They're loving the top 200 sheet. And one guy's asking if he can buy you a Modelo.
What's funny? I had Modelo in Sea Isle City on Saturday night. Took my wife out to dinner. Turned out it was a BYOB. I didn't realize. Walking around the corner, only place with the big cans. I'm a can guy, as you are. I know. Was Modelo? No, yeah, absolutely a can guy, and I absolutely like Modelo. It's good. Yeah.
Modelo at one point with all the ridiculousness of people boycotting Bud Light, which is, I could talk to you for days about that, but Modelo actually passed Bud Light, I think, for the month of May as the number one beer in America. Wow. So pretty wild.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Our buddy Fine Oak Things
too, man. Dos Equis lagers, no joke.
I like anything. Just hand me a free beer. I'll drink it. Yeah. Normally, I don't like keeping QBs in a one QB redraft. But is Jalen Hurts worth keeping in the 5th round? I can keep a max of 5. He's also keeping Calvin Ridley in the 13th, which is a tremendous value. JJ, I assume that's Justin Jefferson in the 6th, Sky Moore in the 12th, and Rashad White in the 8th. This guy's got a squad he's keeping. Holy smokes. What are you drafting with 7-year-olds? This is great. I would absolutely keep Jalen Hurts in the 5th round.
Sure. Of course, because that's a major needle mover. I mean, quarterback, we're not into taking them top 25. I'm not this year in a redraft, but this is a little different here. Absolutely. Yeah. Not worried about Jalen Hurts now that he's gotten paid. I mean, I'm a little worried about Philly, things being tougher.
Oh, yeah. And tough schedule this year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's going to be not going to be as unbelievably great as last year. I can tell you that, right? You feel that way as an Eagles fan, don't you?
I did draft Jalen Hurts as my quarterback in that league and just bought myself and son a Jalen Hurts Kelly Green throwback that we can wear while we watch the games. But no, they'll be fine. I don't think Jalen Hurts is going to run 13 balls into the end zone again this year, but I think he'll be okay. And he only threw 23 touchdowns last year. So maybe we get that to improve a little bit. And he'll be fine. But how many 1-yard touchdowns can a guy get back-to-back seasons? Let's be real.
Well, they did lose Miles Sanders, with his 11 tutties, right?
Let's ask you the question about we'll follow up on the Eagles. Some banter about Kenny Gainwell being the Eagles' RB1. Of course, they went out and traded for DeAndre Swift. They signed Rashad Penny, who what I'm reading in camp is not really setting the world on fire. They still have Scott Boston and his brother Boston Scott, old guru joke from the morning. What do you think of that notion that maybe Kenny Gainwell is the RB1 for the Philadelphia Eagles?
Yeah, I'm not buying it. I actually kind of liked him last year, and he was on my list, and he was terrible for about 3 months, and that was going into year 2. So he had been there in the system. We liked him coming out, and I don't think he's been that good. I mean, oddly enough, he's a pretty good short yardage guy, but just no explosiveness, doesn't command much. I mean, who's sitting there thinking, oh, we got to get Kenny Gainwell in there? I'm not really buying it. Those Eagle beat writers, a lot of them don't know what the hell they're looking at. And oftentimes they overreact to what they see in the practice. I just think he's well in the mix, but it's probably just going to be an ugly 3-man committee. I'm still in on Penny. Now it could get cut, but I think I'm still in on Penny. He's the guy that is, if you're going to take a shot, I mean, Swift could work out. But Gainwell, who the hell knows? I still think in these type of cases, just go with the cheaper guy if you're going to go with someone. That said, actually, Penny or Gainwell is cheaper. I mean, I did take him in the draft plan recently, like 5th, 14th round, but I feel like the hype is probably going to get him into like the 11th, don't you?
Yeah, and the Eagles, I don't think are going to cut Penny because he'll end up on that Dallas roster in a heartbeat and come back to haunt them, spelling Tony Pollard. Because they could use a big point. That would be a phenomenal landing spot for one Rashad Penny.
Holy crap.
Let's not speak that into existence. We don't need that energy out there.
Well, the only reason I thought was two reasons. Penny's not making any money, much money.
Nope.
And there's nothing like just get rid of him. And then Trey Sermon, our guy Kaplan keeps telling me Trey Sermon. They like Trey Sermon. So I don't know if they can stash him on the practice squad again this year, can they?
I'm not sure the rules of that. We'll have to ask Mr. C. We got to get Mr. C on the show. He's one of the people I've never met from Fantasy Points. I think I've talked to everybody else except Mr. C. Yeah. Let's see. That would be
your honor.
Yes, I would like to. I love him. I love all of the guys you hear mornings on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. Our guy Fish Mafia, love having him in the chat with us, asks, guys, I'm thinking of going late on QB. He's got Geno, Goff, Daniel Jones, and Desmond Ridder. I'm going to give you a heads up here, Fish. Don't draft Desmond Ridder. But the other guys here, Geno, Goff, and Daniels, these guys had great years last year. Geno Smith was a quarterback 5 overall. Daniel Jones was top 10. Goff was number 10. Can these guys repeat this next year, John?
Yeah, I think Daniel Jones can. We're still ascending there. We need to kind of let it rip a little bit more. We need somebody who can run, by the way, like Darren Waller, who's been unbelievable. So I'm not yet confident enough in Danny Dimes to where I'm like, that's my guy, or that's my third guy. He's like my 5th guy. Like he's like my fallback plan if I miss my top 4 guys.
If there's a run of 11 quarterbacks right before your pick.
Then I'll probably hold off a few more rounds, by the way. I think we are over the markets on Daniel Jones. I mean, the guy was a QB1 last year. What did he get touchdown pass-wise? What was it, like 19? Was it?
15.
15, yeah. 15. Yeah, 19 sounded, slow down.
Slow down.
Yeah.
I mean, his 2 starting wide receivers, by the way, who didn't play in the preseason opener. I just did a pod. It's going to drop Wednesday morning with Graham Barfield and Joe Dolan. We talked about some of the preseason week 1 intricacies, and Darius Slayton and Paris Campbell didn't play in the game. You can get those guys for free. They're like wide receiver 80 and 82. Nobody 100%. Wants to talk about these guys, but they're going to be starting wide receivers for an NFL team with a top 10, fantasy quarterback. So I think we're all a little too low on these giant wide receivers.
Yeah. And what I've tried to do is pick the right one and kind of go in on that guy. And that has been Paris Campbell, who I've always liked since the combine. I mean, the guy did get drafted before his teammate Terry McLaurin. He's a pretty talented guy. He can line up outside. He can run. Slot guy. Finally did find it within himself somehow to stay healthy last year. And Danny Dimes loves slot. So, he's going to target that guy. Like we could get Wan'Dale Robinson working his way into the mix down the stretch. And, Jalen Hyatt will be like the shot play guy, and Sterling Shepard, who knows? So it could not work out. He could be the first guy you cut, but I among all the receivers, that's my guy this year, Paris Campbell. That's my dart throw.
Interesting. How about Josh Coons? Guru, what's your favorite new band you've been listening to lately?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Boy, it's been slim pickings. I am into this new album by Portugal the Man, but it's definitely alt rocky. But it actually has a song with Edgar Winter in it, if you can believe that. The old time rocker, the Edgar Winter band from like the 70s. new bands though. Can I name my own son?
Please.
On let's see, what is he? Hans. You see, he goes Hans. I don't even know if it's Hans or Hans. I think it's Hans. He goes Hans Music Official, and that is my flesh and blood, my firstborn. And he put out an album, and it's actually some of the best songs of the summer. For like I said on the radio, it's been so bad with new music that I literally had to create a human being to produce it for me.
I like that. I like that. Maybe I'm in the same boat. My kid plays trombone and piano, so maybe I'll just start listening to some big band stuff to get through the day. Music today sucks. It's terrible. It's all, computerized, synthesized. Like, I want to hear somebody play their own music. I'm actually going to see OAR and the Goo Goo Dolls with the kids.
Yeah.
So we talked about music the last time, and I'm going to take them tomorrow night. That should be a really good time. And
I'm a big Manchester Orchestra fan. I saw them in
Okay.
Asheville, North Carolina 2 weeks ago with Jimmy Eat World. And I'm friends with the drummer from Jimmy Eat World. So I went backstage with my son. That was fun. That was awesome. So I do like Manchester a lot. Interpol, I still like them. They're still kind of still new, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. It's getting tough, man, for the new bands though. Like brand new bands, like, oh, I love these guys. It's slim pickings there.
It's tough, man. Our pal Mark
It's like I like a
Aloni.
song or two. Maybe I like this band. Oh, I like a couple of songs. There's a band called Sir Sly I kind of like, but they're a little. I mean, poppy is not the right word. They're alt rock, but they're kind of a little pop. I'm not poppy, nor am I sloppy. Yeah. Anyways.
When I play golf on Thursdays in my league, like the new thing now is everyone has a speaker when they play golf, because you can't just be away from your wife and kids and enjoying the sounds of nature. You've got to have a playlist from 1994. And I was playing like absolute crap. And the guy I was playing against goes, every song you play is goddamn depressing. Like, can you get a new playlist? And then, that's your mojo. You're all about the vibes, guru. Maybe I need a little more upbeat music than Counting Crows and Mumford and Son while I'm out there hitting the ball.
Right. Well, I do believe the popularity of the show is tied a little bit to the music. The wheels are in motion there with the songs, because those are all from my personal archive or whatever, my own playlist. By the way, there's a lot of things I can't do. If you ask me to put something complicated together and it takes a normal person 2 hours, it'll take me 4. I'll do it. It'll take me 4. So I always like to balance it out. But man, playlists, and I was a rock DJ. So if you gave me like a high school year over the last 35, 40 years, physical location, and maybe a vibe of the school from the high school years, I'm your man for a playlist. For like a high school reunion, forget about it. No one can top me.
I love it.
The best, baby.
You'd love hanging out with my father-in-law. He's a big music guy, and he's all about the same thing. He's got to make the playlist for wherever we go. In his basement, he took all his original vinyl albums. I'm talking every Beatles album, original Stones, Zeppelin. I'll take a picture next time I'm there and send it to you. But yeah, big time guy. He loved when the iPod first came out, because he could take all his CDs and then convert them down onto there, and he'd have 8 bazillion albums. And now
I did allow that, and now you're screwed.
Well, my wife wanted a vinyl, or I sound like Gary Delabate with his pieces of vinyl, but she wanted a record player. She's like, hey, Dad, can you buy me a record player for Christmas? He goes, why would anyone want a record player? It sounded terrible. The reason that technology improved was so you didn't have to listen to it on these garbage records. Like, why are you going backwards?
Yeah,
but
well,
it's all vinyl now.
My son is a purist, a music purist guy. He's 17. He's all vinyl. Jeez. Everything comes back. So guess what? When people finally realize that smartphones are driving everyone insane, we're all going back to flip phones. You heard it here first.
Zach Morris would be so happy to hear you say that.
Yes, he will.
Speaking
of what is Tiffany Amber Thiessen? I forgot her name on the show.
Kelly
Big fan, though.
Kapowski. How do you
Oh
forget
yeah, of
that?
course. Yeah, I mean, a little after my time. I mean, I was like 28 when that was, but she was still. I'm still a big fan.
Me and my buddy, this is why Ask Guru Anything is the best. Me and my buddy went the day Showgirls opened because we were big Saved by the Bell fans. And we wanted to see Elizabeth Berkley in all her glory. Paid off. It was a good time.
Wow.
How about
Well, I have a
Eagle?
Demi Moore story.
Oh, Demi Moore striptease. Same thing. I think I worked at the movie theater at that point.
Oh, that's the movie you mentioned, right?
No, it was Showgirls was the girl from
Showgirls. Okay, different movie.
Remember, it's like NC-17.
Okay, my bad. Never mind.
Well, we'll have a Guru movie marathon. Well, maybe a double feature where we show both. Hey, look who it is. It's Eagle Ed. Guru.
Whoa.
If you were tied to a chair and had to make a decision on a standard league, Sky Moore or Elijah Moore?
Is it Adam Kaplan's chair?
He's tied to that chair.
Yeah, no, I don't want to be tied to that chair. That's a great question. I deliberated on this today when I drafted a team, and I went Sky. Even though we have Eli higher, I did go Sky. See, I want to rank Sky a little higher than we have. There have been a couple of times where I've really wanted to go all in on some guys, but the staff, gave me some friction. So I'm like, all right, well, it's some democracy of sorts here. I'm not a dictator over here. But I'm going to go Sky. But of course, everyone told me we had Sky way too high when I released the rankings, but now his ADP is higher than that. So I think I was on the right track. But if I let me see a ballsy ranking right now for Sky, for Eagle Ed, who, by the way, knows that I'm on record stating that if Sky Moore shits the bed this year, I'm retiring from radio. That's right. That's right.
Where can I send my resume if that happens? So just so I have things to do next year.
Oh yeah, Brian's already lining himself up. Well, that's fair though. I mean, there will be a time in the near future where I'm going to step aside and let other people do stuff. I've been bogarting stuff here forever. I would like a ballsy ranking of Sky Moore would be like probably 28, right behind Addison. In the Gabe Day, top 30. Top 30.
Yeah, I mean, he's in like the 40s right now still.
Yeah, 48.
Yep.
Yeah. That's why he's the sleeper receiver of the year.
Our buddy Adam P is chiming in. How much do you buy into offensive coordinator changes for fantasy value when the head coach stays the same? So, in instance, he mentions Monken and Bieniemy. That's an interesting point. And people are already crying about Eric Bieniemy's too hard on his pledge class, this year because these kids are crying. They want to go home. Do you put a lot of stock in that? To me, I think they're going to let these guys call their own offense. It's special cases like a guy who's really entrenched, maybe like a Pete Carroll. We know who wants to run the football.
Yeah.
And whoever he brings in is going to have to fit that system. I think a guy like Bieniemy was brought in because Riverboat Ron, who's awful, by the way, look at his career numbers as a coach, is trying to save his job. They have to do something in that situation. So what do you think of these OC changes? How does it play into your strategy and in rankings?
Yeah, I think it's important. You do have to take it on a case-by-case basis, though. Like, in Dallas, Kellen Moore was a little bit more imaginative, throwing the ball down the field, getting guys in space. Brian Schottenheimer seems to be, although he's an analytics guy too, but his last name's Schottenheimer, so he's kind of more known for running the block. But yeah, I mean, like Bieniemy is a completely weird one because, as you mentioned, Ron's a defensive guy. He actually was an O-line coach, as you know, Ron Rivera, but defensive guy. Bieniemy's not really a passing game guy, so that's a real question as far as I'm concerned. But I would think Ron normally, if he had complete job security, would just let Bieniemy do the offense. But I don't know. He might step in here. Brian Johnson in Philly is a little bit of an unknown. Let's see other good examples.
Who does Todd Monken, who's back in the league now after
Yeah,
going
that's
to
big.
over to
Yeah,
the college
that
game
is
for a few
not
years.
100%. A guy like that who's established, that means a lot, because they're going to be more pass happy. Greg Roman, a lot of people left. Like, I think maybe Hollywood wanted to leave because of Greg Roman. Like the route combinations are very unimaginative and things like that. So, yeah, Todd Monken is an established guy, did unbelievable work with Georgia last 2 years. Dave Canales in Tampa is a very interesting one because you've got the head coach, Todd Bowles, who's a defensive guy. He's going to probably let Canales kind of just go off on his own. Now, Canales has never called plays. He might be the next Ben Johnson for all we know. I mean, he did a hell of a job with Geno Smith last year. Yeah, it is a case-by-case basis, but it's absolutely important. Bill O'Brien, that's perfect example. Like, I like Mac Jones enough last year, despite the presence of the two dum-dums they had running the offense, just because he was like 206 overall. But we said over and over again everywhere, like, this is probably going to be a disaster. And it was. So we've also said that Bill O'Brien's going to make it a lot better, and he probably will.
Well, let's stick in New England because we've got a question from our pal Taylor. Are you more willing to take Stevenson if his ADP drops down with this Zeke signing? So kind of a macro picture here. Zeke Elliott signed. It's not a big money deal, but they probably do want someone to take those old Damian Harris carries. Damian Harris was really good around the goal line. So Stevenson, struggled a bit in that role. We've got double-digit touchdowns 2 straight years for Zeke Elliott. So I'm concerned he's going to come in there and he's going to steal some of those goal line work. But, where are you taking Ramondre now? He's RB9 off the board on Underdog these days, 29th overall.
Yeah, I haven't had a great vibe all year. I've been kind of bracing myself for something like this for months, basically. Once they let James Robinson go, I had to bump up his projection, which really shot him up high because you can't project the other scrubs on the roster for the entirety of the offseason to do much. So by default, Ramondre got a boatload of touches, but now you got to pull back a little bit. Now, look, I hate to back or be worried about a dude who's on the downside like Zeke, especially if he ends up being washed. I mean, you feel like an idiot for doing that, but I don't think he's done. And as I said on the radio this morning, like, you just add it all up. He's not really a fumbler. I think he had a little bit of a hiccup there for a year or two, but overall, I don't think he's fumbled much lately at all. Great in pass pro. Very good short yardage conversion. That sounds like a Patriot guy to me. So, yeah. I mean, I would be concerned. So I would say 4th round. But the thing is, like, I don't know, man. Sometimes your best picks, just let them go. There's enough depth here. If you're not feeling it, for at least for me, like, if I'm not feeling it, like, and it's not like I'm guessing, just grasping at things. Like, I'm obviously doing all this stuff. I'm just saying, just let them go, man. Okay, I'll take Jerry Jeudy instead. Want to be a wide receiver heavy anyway this year.
And if you guys want to get your hands on data like what John's talking about, and you want to look it up for yourself and see who, is really good inside the 5-yard line and who has a great, yards after contact and all that, we got a place for you. It's Fantasy Points data. This year, only $50. That's right, $50. This thing should cost way, way more. I know because I've worked for other companies that sold similar products, and these things are thousands of dollars. If you can get your hands on this data for $50, folks, trust me, do yourself a favor. It's going to make you such a smarter player. Go over and subscribe right now. You can get that Fantasy Points data package. I've had people come up to me at the Fantasy Football Expo. They're like, oh my God, like, this is ridiculous. They're like, we love this. And these are guys who write fantasy articles for other companies, and they're telling me how much they love it.
Yeah. My vision is that, no offense to PFF, but my vision is we're the PFF of fantasy, basically, because doesn't seem like they care much about fantasy. So let's us care about it. Basically, that's my vision.
There you go. So get over there. It's $50 this year, guys. You'll never find a better value anywhere on the internet. Trust me. Well, we were talking about Zeke going to New England, and our buddy TJV asks, looks like Pollard's the guy in Dallas. I scooped him up at the 2-1 over the weekend. Are we trusting him to carry the loan as a full 3-down back? Is this maybe a spot for Leonard, meaning Leonard Fournette? I think that's a great fit.
It
You were
is.
talking to Schefter, and you were saying they got to add somebody. They just don't have any money, and they're also, rolling out this like 5'3" Deuce Vaughn. Should we be paying attention to him?
No, I'm going to go with no. I'm not buying it. Keep in mind when there are major outlier guys, that's usually when I tend to be wrong. Austin Eckler, I wasn't necessarily buying that 3 years ago. Derrick Henry, outlier type of guy in this day and age. Deuce Vaughn would certainly be an outlier. I mean, Darren Sproles looks like Andre the Giant out there compared to this guy. I mean, it's pretty surreal.
Yeah.
We'll see, but I'm not buying that really. Will he make some plays? Sure. We'll get 7 touches for 38 yards every week, and you know what I mean, like, and get you 4.7 points. Like,
when are you ever going to start that guy? Yeah. I mean, it's a waste of time.
Pollard's that's a tough one, man. Am I sold that he's going to hold up? No, I'm not.
No, please. I just lost.
Will I take him?
Breece Hall. I can't have this.
Sometimes you can not be sold that a guy's going to hold up, but you'll take him and go to church and light a candle that he will, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Here's a fun question before we get out of here. My pal Gabe Butler asks, Guru, who are your favorite Homer play-by-play or color guys? Hashtag get there.
Well, Dave Lapham for the Bengals is number one. He's come on the show a bunch of times, and I actually kind of gave him the idea, or I pitched to him working in to his repertoire, get there.
Just yelling over Dan Horde every time.
Pass. He's got chased down the field, and Lapham's like, yeah, come on, get there. You know what I mean? Like, so I have to revisit that. And the dude in Scott Zolak is pretty good.
Yeah. Unicorns, show ponies. Where's the beef? Maybe the greatest call of all time, the Patriots play-by-play guy. Google that, folks. Put it in your YouTube and check out the Where's the Beef call from Scott Zolak. Tremendous.
And, of course, Nate Zagura, my boy. That's our guy. I mean, that's pretty badass when you start in the fantasy industry and you are the color commentator for the Cleveland Browns radio network and all that. That's pretty badass.
Yeah, no question about it. I remember hearing him on Sirius XM, himself. One guy had to ask, he goes, Guru, you're down to 2 hours now on Sirius, and he wants to know, is that a good thing or a bad thing for you? Do you get a little extra more rest during the week now, or would you rather be the full 3?
Well, it is a tough call. I mean, the answer to the question is it's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel bad that, it's basically they chopped down 33%. But full disclosure, last year, and I'm sure this year, they did give me the option to keep the 3, but I had to opt for the 2. It does help. It does, keep me a little fresher. And this year I'm doing less than no more direct TV show, no more trips to Los Angeles. So I'll be between all these elements at play here. I'll keep it going, be a little fresher. But the answer to the question is, yeah. It is a good thing. It's nice to be done at 9 because I could take a little nap now and then get up and like, oh, it's 10. I'm good,
Well, when you guys wake up tomorrow from your hangover after watching the show, because I know 90% of you guys out there are having a beverage like the Guru and I are, and you're going to wake up and say, oh my God, my draft is coming this weekend and next weekend, whatever. I need a draft board. You got to go over and see our pals at fjfantasy.com. We got you covered. We'll save you 10% off your purchase. Use code FANTASYPTS10. We're going to save you 10%. I use these draft boards myself. I'm not selling you a bill of goods here. These are really good, high-quality draft boards. Their stickers are ginormous because we're all getting old. You got guys sitting in a bar or a garage or a backyard, and they're like, what's the sticker say? Who is that? I can't tell. Not anymore. These are big, beautiful, full-color stickers. djfantasy.com, promo code FantasyPTS10. Tell him your boy, the Guru, sent you, and you'll get off with the best draft you've ever had in your league's history. Well, Guru, this was fun, man. We got about 55 minutes here. Thanks so much to everybody for hopping in and answering the questions. We appreciate you. We're on the Twitter machine at fantasy_guru. I'm at Drake Fantasy. And John, I guess just till next time, they can come ask Guru anything.
Yeah. And let's end on this, a tweet from Ron Davenport that I just received. I just turned down Miles Sanders for our beloved Sky Moore. Never felt more alive. There it is.
Wow.
There it is.
There's my Adam Shine. Wow.
Yeah, there it is.
That guy, crack a beer tonight and celebrate, my friend. All right, guys, we'll see you. For John, I'm Drake. Take it easy. For Ask Guru.